Hi, my name is Anastasia and welcome to the Dream Draw Art School. In this video, we will paint beautiful, delicate hyacinth flower, the perfect idea for the spring. This is a demo lesson where you can get acquainted with my watercolor sketching style and my teaching technique. If you want to learn more and watch the full version of this lesson, join my Patreon, the link in the description.
So the first one will be the oval shape here at the top, and let's draw two lines here, and we are just making the bottom line. I will do the line here and also the second one here at the bottom. At the very bottom we are making one line semi, and then here we are making the same line here at the top, but the top line should be inside the first lines. We can also just make two lines here more visible. By the way, let's use the first lines here to make the pot more trapezoid, and we are making the second line here, so we are actually making the ellipsis or the oval shape here. Then we are just making the lines inside to show the soil or the ground or something inside, and we are making it with a curly line. Then let's do the lines to show the inner parts of the hyacinth, and we are making the lines showing the direction for the leaves. So the first one, the second one, and the third one will be here. And now let's do the shape of the leaves here. I will start with this one, with the central, and we are just making the shape looking like extended droplet, like this. Then we are making the second one on the right side, and the last one will be on this side. So we'll start with this small line here, then the leaf can be underneath this one, and we can see it, for example, slightly appearing on the left side. Now inside this oval we need to make smaller circles, and I will start with this line here, and here the first smaller flower will be the first one. Then, for example, let's draw the second one here, then the third one here. We are just making these circles inside because the hyacinth consists of smaller pieces, of smaller flowers, and we need to make them here inside. Of course, some flowers can look forward to us, can look like we are viewing them in the front, and we are making the circle, but some of the flowers, they can be like the oval because they are looking in different sides. So great, now let's make the spring lettering. So I will start here, and I want to make the first line, just making the letters. Okay, so now let's draw the smaller petals inside these circles. We have the first one, and inside it we are just placing one dot in the middle, and then we will do smaller petals showing that they are really diverse. So we will do them looking in different directions. So the petals, they are just like small droplets. I'm making them here starting with the central part, and I'm just adding them here connected here in the middle area. Some of them again can be smaller, some of them can be bigger. So again, just we are experimenting and making the petals of the flowers as diverse as we can. Amazing. Now let's fill in the areas that we have left, and we are just making some additional petals inside. We're just adding the smaller droplets here, then again here, and making the feeling, the illusion of many smaller flowers there. Great. Here we can also add the line for the stem and maybe for one more leaf somewhere there in the background. Before making the outline with your liner or with your ballpoint pen, just make sure it is waterproof. And if it is not waterproof, then make the outline after the watercolor step. So let's do the lines here, and we are connecting everything. We are just creating the same lines. Here I'm making 2 lines to show the thickness of the pot. Then again, inside it, we're making the curly lines to show the soil. So you can do it using your pen, or maybe you can start with the pencil. Then we are making the outline of the leaves, so let's make them. In some places we have the petals above the leaves, so let's do it. We have the stem inside as well. Amazing. So now let's do the outline of the flowers. We have the central dot. I'm placing the dot here as well, and then we are just repeating the lines that we have here. So again, just play with the shapes. Feel free to add the curly lines or maybe some additional wavy lines there. Make them as different as you can. And don't forget about the smaller petals that we have inside the areas without the flowers. And we are making the outline of the petals inside. So by the way, here we have additional space, and I want to make the flowers, the small flower, visible there. So I have the central dot here, and I have 1 petal, second one, maybe the third visible there. So then we are making the petals here, and on the very top we can just make the lines without ending, just like this. Okay, so now I want to make the additional lines on the leaves. I'm making the hatching here in the central part, showing the structure of them. Also inside we are making the small dots here on the soil, on the ground, and we are coloring the inner part of the pot. Okay, so now let's do the hatching and coloring with the liner inside the flower. So we have some areas without the petals, and we are just making them black. So great, now let's do the outline of the word spring, and I'm just adding the additional layers on it, making each letter slightly bigger like this. Okay, so the outline is done. Now let's take the eraser. I'm using this one. It is the knittable eraser, and let's erase all the pencil. I will start with a mix of yellow plus pink with super light orangey color, and we are making the first lines here, the first strokes on the left. Then we are moving to the pink color, and we are creating the transition from the first yellowish colors to the pink. We can just even take the pure yellow color again and make some additional dots here on the left. Then we are making the same strokes using the pink color. And we need to take the pure pink color, so without any yellow. I'm taking it straight from the pen. So we are creating the transition to it. And we are making the pink middle area. Again, cleaning my brush and just diluting the pink color with water and making the last strokes here with a lighter pink. So let's do the first strokes with a smaller brush because I won't do too much of them. So I'll just do several and then I will continue with the bigger brush with the pink. Let's do the first lines here, and again I will just make one line on the right, then I'm leaving a small tiny white line like this to show the light. Then I continue with a mix of pink plus yellow, just adding several strokes here with smaller brush. And now it is the perfect time for the bigger brush. So I'm just adding the lines here and making the transition while the first color is still wet. So I'm trying to make everything as fast as possible. Then we are making the lines here, and again I'm leaving a small white line here. Don't worry if you are not making the lines on the left or on the right. You can add them later using the white pen, so just relax and make the wash using the colors. So I have the darker area here, and I'm taking the violet and adding it here just to create the shadow place. Then I'm wiping my brush because I have too much of the water on it and making the last lines here at the very bottom. We can start with the yellowish color like this one, and I will do the lines here with this color. Then I'm picking the middle color and making the shadows like this. Then the inner smaller leaf will be darker. Then we have the stem with just several strokes of super light yellowish green. I'm making super bright colors here on the left, and then I'm taking the darker version and adding the darker color here, starting from the middle part. Okay, we can also use this color just to make some additional shadows on the previous leaves. Okay, so now let's continue with a smaller brush, and we need to make the pink pot here behind the ground or soil on the paper. So I'm adding the water here, making this area wet, but I'm not making the shadow above this line, so the shadow is here under this line. And I'm taking the smaller brush again and just adding the shadow color right next to the pot. If you feel that you have too much of the color, just wipe your brush with a napkin and clear the unnecessary areas. You can just slightly press on your brush and collect the excess of the paint. And I'm adding the darker version of it closer to the pot with tapping motions. I'm not just making any brush strokes, no, I'm just making the tapping dots here. So just right under the pot, we're making the darker color. Okay, so my sketch is completely dry. Let's add additional shadows, and I will start with the pink with a quinacridone red color. I'm just adding the smaller strokes like this one to the flowers, and we are making the darker central parts. You can make the transitions, just blurring the color slightly, And the middle area should be darker, so we are just adding the smaller, darker center and then blur the color. Then we can also take the lighter version of it and make the darker dots here on the right side. And then again, make the softer transitions using the wet brush like this. So I'm again taking the blue plus yellow, mixing them together, and the color is really dark. So we need to add several lines here on the central leaf with the long lines. Then again, I'm cleaning my brush, wiping it slightly with a napkin, and I'm making the lines using my wet brush just to extend the lines inside and make them softer. We can also add darker parts on the pot, so I'm just taking the pink color plus violet, mixing them together to get the violet, more pinkish color, and I'm going to add this color on the area with the shadows. So we are adding the line here, also the line inside the pot, and some additional lines like this. We can also make the beautiful transition to the previous layer, but we need to use the bigger brush for this. I'm just making the transition down, adding the purple and pink. Then again, I'm making the blurring technique to make the soft ending here. And of course, we need to add just one line under the pot with a smaller brush and make it softer again. Well, my sketch is completely dry and I will take the white pen. We need to make the contours of each flower lighter. So we have the central part that is dark, but the contours should be lighter. So let's start with this one. And I'm just making the lines inside the petals, making the contours lighter. By the way, you can also make some of the petals even lighter if you want to. So for example, if you want to make this petal lighter, you are just making additional lines here. And if you want to make it softer, you can just take off the excess of white pigment. Great, so now let's do the same on the leaves. We are creating the contours inside each leaf. First of all, we're making on this one inside, on the right side, and also on the left side as well. And the last leaf here, we are making the line on the left. Then we are making the lines here on the pot on the right and also on the left, but the line on the right should be bigger. We can even make the line, by the way, on the thickness here. And now I will do this line even bigger. So if you don't have them, you can just make them right now. This, and also slightly here at the very bottom. Then I'm extending the line on the left. Okay, now I'm taking the black liner and let's make some darker values, more black. And I'm making the dots here, again, additional dots inside. We can even add the hatching on some flowers, on the middle flowers from the center. And we can also make the outline for the stem and for the leaves. We can add additional shadows with the hatching and with the outline. And several additional lines on the pot here, inside, on the edges, and also at the very bottom. Well, now I just want to add several white dots on the letters. I'm adding the dot inside the darker parts. And I want to add the lines on the background, lines, dots, and hatches, random lines to create the playful effect.
Great, our sketch is done. I hope you had fun creating this beautiful and delicate sketch. So if you want to see the full version of this lesson, join my Patreon, the link in the description. And see you in my next lessons.